I've written this script about like 200 times by this point, but this will be my final attempt. In all of my previous ones, I spent a little bit too much time doing meticulous formal analysis of these games, rather than just yap like I usually do. So let's correct that. Hey, I'm blah blah blah, I like complaining about things that aren't problems, let's get into it. Are you sick and tired of the repetition and mundaneness of a fickle, feeble and fleeting reality? No, not really. Just fucking say yes for the bit. Yes, I hate living. Well, how would you like the novel experience of getting to live a different one? Ooh. With this new genre of gaming, you can see the world through many terrifyingly different lenses. A fantasy full of gruesome monsters and powerful allies. A look into the gory Wild West. The fear of being stranded on a water planet light years from home. And the worst of all, Los Angeles. If that interests you, then you're kind of out of luck. Don't get me wrong, I love all of the games here, except for Genshin Impact. Yet, sometimes I can't help but feel like something is missing. So, what makes the fresh taste of a new world go from sweet to sour? Oftentimes, open world games like to sell you this huge ordeal. You have 3 million characters and 25,000 hectares of unexplored land that you can own. You can be the first one to step foot there. I love that these games paint this image of the American dream, but when it comes to Pokémon, they just can't seem to escape their linear roots. Legends Arceus was the first time they dipped their balls into the KFC deep fryer of open world. A respectable first attempt sees you hopping between what I would classify as subworlds, only unlocked by progressing through the game and catching a shit ton of Pokémon. Whilst the map is quite expansive, you do still feel quite bottled in this world. Access to content is still locked behind progression, and there isn't too much to go out of your way to do. You can go out of your way to harvest the entire land's supply of apricorns, but it still doesn't mean the game will permit running an underground Pokeball selling ring. Credit where it's due, however, Pokemon's story writing team has been incredible in the last few installations, and Legends Arceus is no exception. I just really wish this world didn't feel so barren. I can only describe the game as being a linear game that takes place in a slightly more open world. Something that I also believe GTA 5 suffers from. When I legally obtained this game using a legitimate website that offers conveniently free copies, I only went through the story and then deleted the game upon finishing it. GTA doesn't really push you to do anything else. I'm sure there are other things to do, but those little pop-ups in the top of your screen are always like, "Oh, you rancid feline, get yourself to the barber store and trim that atrocious mane." It's never like, "Yeah, go to this fucking location, you can shoot up a bank, hell yeah." I know that there is a lot more to do in GTA Online, but I personally don't feel like getting constantly blown up with an Oppressor Mark II, funded with the tears of a single mother of 5. Anyway, Pokemon, you need to get back here, I'm not done with you. Game Freak tried to do open world again in their newest release, Scarlet and Violet, and for what it's worth, you tried. It's definitely a better step in the right direction, but they just can't stop making linear storytelling. Whoa, you're telling me I can go all the way to the Frost Mountains and catch myself a Sneasel just after graduating from university? No, you can't. If your favourite Pokemon is constricted to the areas of the game the devs have considered late game areas, you will have absolutely zero chance obtaining that thing until you've already wiped half the trainers off the face of Paldea. Even worse if your favourite Pokemon is locked behind the progression wall in the bottom left of the map, which requires you to have an upgrade for your legendary lizard bicycle. So, you'll only be able to go there once you've completed the relevant story mission. Who doesn't love backtracking? Hello. Currently editing more on here with an update. Turns out you can reach Alpha Nada without an upgrade to your Miraidon or Koraidon. I just didn't look hard enough. Despite that though, it doesn't really defeat my point because you're still not going to have any chance at catching or defeating the gym leader there because they're still like a tetration level higher than your Pokemon.
But in universe, some Pokemon are just canonically stronger. It wouldn't make sense for you to be able to obtain them just after receiving your stoned cat.
Okay, well this pink bitch is canonically meant to hunt these armored crows, and let's see how that's going. Anyway, speaking of backtracking, Subnautica, and Minecraft if you count it as an open world game, Again. Yo, what the fuck are you doing? What the fuck are you doing? Are definitely the doggiest shits of tracking backwards. These games feature finite resource systems, and to be honest, I have no issue with that. It wouldn't be very immersive to farm the same node 100 times, but at the same time, the world's resource distribution in the case of Subnautica, and the necessity of quantity in Minecraft, often means you'll spend a lot more time navigating rather than actually collecting. In Subnautica, you are required to get all of the loot back up to the surface so you can deliver it to the Neptune launchpad. This game doesn't have alternate endings like it's RimWorld or something. The only way off the planet is to construct the Neptune ship. This not only requires you to shut down the alien cannon and retrieve the blueprint from the obliterated Aurora, but also gather a bunch of resources in some rather deep locations. And God forbid if you went down to the lava zone to get kyanite, just to return to the surface and realise you're one short. Minecraft, on the other hand, there isn't really a way to guarantee that you'll find what you need unless you have that little respect for your own time. So sometimes you can run around like a headless chicken with a pickaxe for hours, only to return home to your starving family with 3 diamonds and 5 coal. Just like in real life, diamonds are intrinsically worthless, and these fuckers want emeralds. You stupid dumbass, you say on your high and mighty column of Minecraft or Subnautica knowledgery. I always make sure to set up a second smaller base to gather resources, and then once I have all I want, I ship it home. Yeah, like, I get where you're coming from, but the things have got to go back home eventually. You're going to have to make that journey irregardless of having a second encampment or not. It's more placebo, because you've split the trips into smaller chunks. I know in the grand scheme of things it saves some time, but I just don't think it's worth it. Alright, these two have gotten too much screen time analysis, so let me leave it at this. I never would have even finished Subnautica had I not massively exploited the air pump super launch glitch. I was that sick of travelling. Rust was made to be a multiplayer game. Of course, the game wouldn't be fun if no one else played it. I mean, you spend the whole time farming and gathering resources just so you can blow someone else's progress to ground zero. But you slowly start to realise that the more you play it, if no one says anything and no one has a reaction to what you do, it begins to just feel like a non-game. Rust, disregarding other human beings, is completely objectiveless. There's no real thing to strive for other than a completed research tree, but even then, 90% of the late game research is just raiding tools. I'm not going to be tearing down the Amazon rainforest with my explosive 5.56mm rifle rounds. I want to kill people. Rust was never made to be played alone, but the world does sometimes feel so drainingly empty that this game doesn't just have a vocal and competitive community, it needs it to stay fresh and entertaining. Imagine watching those trap-based videos if no one ever reacted to what happened to them.
My fanboy picks death.
Sea of Thieves, on the other hand, has spent so much time making their game fun that they forgot its online multiplayer. Sea of Thieves is also objectiveless. You make money to buy more quests, to go and make more money, and then buy cosmetics. And ultimately, I would never recommend trying to do an Athena voyage alone in utter silence at the dead of night. Despite that, with a group of friends and a few spare hours sailing the seas like old-timey pirates, it can be an endearing experience. In the early days when Sea of Thieves was a poverty game and all you had was bananas and forts, a lot of the entertainment came from when you finally encountered other players and you pillaged them for all they were worth. But now that we live in the modern era of Tall Tales and Pirates of the Caribbean collabs, there's less incentive to go hunting other people. It's just a net loss for everyone when you get stomped mid-story quest because now you've got to go back and do half of it again, and the people that sunk you get a measly ruby gem and a pack of gum as a reward. Not only that, but some of the more competitive Reddit cells realize that they could just exploit story mechanics to get a 1-up in PvP. In the Shores of Gold quest, you begin at the Morrow's Peak outpost. From here, you'll gain access to the start of the quest, in which the Shroudbreaker, that you have spent 7 previous quests completing, will now be crudely attached to your boat, This wondrous device allows you to pass through the game's kill barrier and reach a secret island outside of this mortal realm. Unfortunately, the PvP tards realised that if they activated the quest before their goon sesh, if they ever started losing to the sloop full of casuals that they picked a fight with, they could just bugger off to the kill barrier like the pussies they are and wait out the storm. Anyway, this script is getting too long again, so I'm going to spare you the details on the next three. This way I can get to the true roid rage experience of trying to comprehend Genshin Impact. No Man's Sky. I love this game for about 10 hours. Then you begin to realize that these 18 quintillion randomly generated planets are mostly just nothing rocks with zero life, and 3 different types of ore veins. I guess if they are striving for realism, they achieve that. Random and procedurally generated is really cool, but unfortunately, this algorithm just started to get bored and made the same thing a lot of times, and the gameplay just starts to feel way too samey to be fun. At least you can name the creatures you discover after real people, just like how I named this really ugly virus-looking thing after an Albanian kid I knew. Oh my god. Skyrim. Sure, this game has a million ways to play, but oftentimes the first thing I'm doing is scurrying straight to the Dawnbreaker because it's just such a busted early game weapon that it decentivizes any exploration. Having something exceedingly good that's obtainable from the beginning makes finding it the first time very fun, but finding it every subsequent time, not a challenge, and it really just defeats the point of every other dungeon that doesn't contain stuff you care about. I mean, as the joke quite literally goes from the line in It Just Works, hyperbole? Yeah, but this game just feels a bit like there isn't any reason to do a lot of the stuff other than for completionist's sake. Elden Ring. Whilst I can make a whole video about why I'm not a massive fan of Smelvin Ring, I'll try chalk it up to a few discrete points. From Software games are already notoriously easy to get lost in, so an open world one with a million random nooks and crannies just creates more unnecessary confusion. I already hate Fahrenkeep from DS3, my favourite Souls game, so God forbid I ever have to go back to fucking Caelid. Furthermore, the samurai class starts with the Uchigatana, which is arguably one of the best weapons in the game, so unless you're going down the sorcery route, there's not really a reason to go out of your way to collect things. The Souls series has had its fair share of dogshit bosses too, but that is very much accentuated in Elden Ring, where there's a lot more copy and pasting to fill Miyazaki's diversity quota. In the end, I want to go back to the game as maybe it does improve after more than 25 hours of playtime, but even after giving it that much, I just didn't have the strength to continue. So yeah, I went and rebeat Dark Souls 3 for the 3rd time. But I think he's just such good design as like a tutorial and as a... Anyway, we have reached the zenith of this video. Up until now, I have mostly complained about games that I actually really like, and they could be perfect if a few kinks were ironed out. But this game, as mentioned at the start, is truly a pillar of irredeemability. Genshin Impact, this game, is the internet equivalent of terrorism. Gambling systems leveraged by extortionate prices or unachievable grinds.
Here's your prices. 900 quid for the highest one.
Unskippable dialogue, both long and hieroglyphic as the Book of Ulysses. Please get me out of this dialogue, man. Uninspired copy and paste puzzles that seek to waste time rather than brain power. Please. Oh, I did it! I did it! Yes! And the chest is on the other island, so I've got to go back one more time. Sisyphean levels of grind locked behind time and resource-based systems. 5 hours and 20 minutes to do that one more time. 5 hours and 20 minutes, so I get to do that again, yeah? And that's 2 out of 20. Bland level and enemy design, creating monotonous, unvaried combat. Wow. Remarkable chest. Unfulfilling exploration, only incentivized by the invitation to gamble more. Reach the vote. I'm sure I can do that without your assistance. Gameplay tutorial. Sure I can do that without your assistance. Useless woman.
Invitation to gamble more.
That's all that does.
That's all that does.
Lacking rewards from that exploration, only meant to bolster the strength of what you gain from gambling. Oh, now I get a chest back at the previous location. Can't wait to give me rewards I care about.
Treasure. One way to draw your target out of hiding.
Mundane quests that mostly consist of running from A to B and reading the aforementioned cryptic dialogue. Guess I'm running there. Thousands of bare-bone, limited-time events that prove they're capable of something more, but refuse to. The longer you play this game, the more tired you'll grow of its archaic implementations, but by that point, the sunk cost fallacy is in full effect, and you've already committed so much time, and potentially even money, that you can't do anything but convince yourself to keep playing. What can I say, China, except you've done it again, masters of the bare minimum, harbingers of the half-effort, and rulers of the rip-off. Genshin often feels like an amalgamation of 20 low-effort game jams, where someone just tried to shittily replicate an already existing IP. And dear god do I pity the poor Unity file fighting for its life to hold this shit show together. All irony aside, however, Genshin has an incredibly pretty world, and some amazing music, and given that it is a free game, I know they have to earn money somehow. It just sucks, because I'm confident the devs are capable of creating something truly grand, but instead we are left with something I can only describe as a 60-year-old pensioner's wet dream. Oh yeah, also the porn is good. Yeah, so anyway, to conclude, this video was actually just a disguised tier list video all along. Yeah, get fucked. If you actually bothered watching this all the way through, you just got tricked into watching YouTube goy slop garbage. Stupid moron. Bye.